When I had a private practice in Oregon, I gathered a lot of I had literally thousands of autoimmune patients in the state of Oregon was in my clinic. What happened was a lot of these autoimmune people were getting better and better, but they would like bring me their kids. So guess what happened? I was like, these kids are actually showing, these illnesses are actually early signs of autoimmunity. Let's talk about what is a root cause to functional medicine approach. What I can tell you is this. My program, there is the 5 pillars approach. Every single one of these pillars really is what is the root cause of any inflammatory or autoimmune disorder or any mystery illness disorder. I don't even care if you have a diagnosis or not. I don't even care what the diagnosis is. It doesn't matter because these 5 pillars solves every one of these issues because that is the root causes is right there's the 5 pillars. That being said, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have autoimmune disease. I don't need to join your Facebook group. I don't think, will this work for me? Because I have fibromyalgia, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, I have IBS, I have PANDAS. Will this work for me? And I'm going to tell you is that it doesn't matter. If you got symptoms all over the place, you can benefit from an inflammatory or autoimmune approach. That's a root cause approach. And I'm going to tell you this also, and it's probably going to be blasphemy, which is I know that the name of the Facebook group is Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally, and the program is Transform Autoimmune. But I can tell you that I could have easily rebranded this program into 10 different programs to say transform fibromyalgia naturally, transform autism naturally, transform ADHD naturally, transform IBS naturally, transform cardiovascular disease naturally, transform Parkinson's naturally, because these 5 pillars are actually the fundamentals of a functional approach to any chronic disease. Okay. So if you want to know exactly what those 5 pillars are, I'm not going to go through all that in this training because it's not the scope. Can you type in the comments 5 pillars? Just write 5 pillars. And once you comment 5 pillars, someone from my team is going to send you a message. Check your Facebook Messenger request area. Otherwise, you won't see it. So comment 5 pillars. And that 5 pillars training has all the details on exactly the 5 areas. That's the underlying root cause of any inflammatory or autoimmune disease or mystery illness. So to me, that is the solution is you got to think way beyond conventional medicine and say, how can I stop the causes that's causing all these targets to be under attack? And the answer is actually not difficult. It's actually simple when you actually go through the 5 pillars. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it is simple because there really are 5 main areas. And when you watch the 5 pillars training that I do, it's very detailed. I go through exactly what the 5 pillars are and what the testing is on the 5 pillars and what are some of the major ways to actually deal with each of those 5 pillars. And if you haven't watched Diane's interview, Diane actually has RA and she has been on some of our interviews about her pain. She had actual nodules with all over her hands from rheumatoid arthritis, preventing her from sewing and many different types of activities. And within weeks, her nodules were starting to go away. And she's doing cartwheels now. I think there's actually a photo of Diane doing cartwheels on the beach with her hands on the ground just weeks after joining our program. So conventional medicine would say it's impossible for these nodules to go away or for a pain level of 10 to go to like 1 over just a couple weeks. And conventional wisdom in conventional medicine, that's true. It is a miracle in their book because they have never seen a root cause approach because they're just giving this medication, that medication, that medication, and that medication. So I'm really advocating for the importance of a root cause approach. And the results are astounding. Astounding. I'm not talking mini like fairy dust here. I'm talking people going from 8 out of 10 pain to like 1 or 2 out of 10 pain in a matter of weeks or over just a couple months of working with us in our online program. So real people, real results. So I have a bonus question that I was going to talk about, which is, what are some common mystery illnesses or what are some common illnesses or chronic disease that no one really realized could benefit from a 5 pillars root cause approach, or that's going to be later diagnosed as being autoimmune. So this is going to be important. Listen up, people, because some of this is going to shock you, and none of this your doctors know. And this is from my years of experience. And so I'm just going to tell you the way I figured this out, honestly, was when I had a private practice in Oregon, I gathered a lot of I had literally thousands of autoimmune patients in the state of Oregon was in my clinic, my integrated functional medicine clinic. And what happened was a lot of these autoimmune people were getting better and better, but they would like bring me their kids. So guess what happened? I amassed one of the largest spectrum disorder clinics with kids with spectrum, autism spectrum, ADHD, behavioral issues, eczema, irritable bowel syndrome. I inherited a lot of those from my autoimmune adults. And that's when it dawned on me. I was like, these kids are actually showing, these illnesses are actually early signs of autoimmunity. And there is no blood test to diagnose them as autoimmune. But why do they keep happening with autoimmune parents, right? And I have 2 children, and one of my children had spectrum disorder, also diagnosed with possible ADD. One of my children had severe eczema allergy issues. That was horrific. So I saw those patterns in my own children. But to this day, if you actually ask a regular doctor out there, if any of this is autoimmune, they're going to be like, oh, no, it's not. And I'm going to call bullshit on that but it's not out of bad intent. The reason really is that they don't have enough of a population and experience with autoimmunity like I do to be able to say this definitively, that based on my experience, symptoms of autism spectrum, ADD, IBS, severe eczema, allergy, multi-allergy symptoms in children absolutely is part of this autoimmune spectrum that we're talking about. And I am positive that we're talking about in a couple years to come, we're going to see that, oh my gosh, there are autoimmune diseases all along. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that some of these mystery illnesses aren't so mystery. They actually are just part of autoimmune spectrum. And I'm going to name pandas. Pandas is another illness that can affect kids. That's really part of an autoimmune spectrum. I'm going to talk chronic fatigue syndrome is typically, it's not chronic fatigue. It's basically fatigue caused by many different autoimmune diseases is labeled as chronic fatigue syndrome. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, most of them are dealing with some sort of autoimmune issue going on anyway. Neuropathy, if you have this mystery neuropathy where you have numbness and tingling or weakness and nobody can diagnose what it is, how likely do you think that's autoimmune? Like 100% people. And even if it isn't, the real answer is, can it benefit from a 5 pillars root cause approach to it? And the answer is hell yes, because do you know 30% of people who come into our program don't have a diagnosis? Okay. And if 30% of the people coming into our program, Transform Autoimmune, don't have a diagnosis, but yet every single week I have an interview of an alumni who's getting dramatic improvements and 30% don't even have a diagnosis, this works for any mystery illness because I know it, because 30% of our graduates don't even have a diagnosis and it works. So I'm just kind of showing you from like the trenches on the back end where I'm seeing and dealing with tens of thousands of autoimmune disease patients over the last 14 years that so many people with mystery symptoms are really being underserved, waiting and hunting for more and more diagnosis. Meanwhile, it's on pause what they're going to do about it. But that disease is not on pause. That autoimmune disease is actually causing more and more damage, many of which is permanent, right? So for me, like, okay, if you want to continue on a diagnosis hunt, you can, but please have a mindset shift to really focus on, what can I do to stop it? And the answer really is the 5 pillars approach. We get out of the box approach because we have an out of the box way of dealing with this, because there's just no way in a clinic setting one-on-one that a doctor is able to educate you the way that I do with our video modules. There's also no way when people are just one-on-one, they think they're a super special zebra, for them to realize how common these problems and solutions really are among people of every single different type of diagnoses. So any of the alumni in our program are going to know, like if you actually look at the alumni and you look at the number of videos we have, every diagnosis and every symptom on the planet is covered. Under the screen, you'll see that you can book a chat. If you already know, you're like, I want to work with you guys. I want to really turn this around and stop this now. Go ahead and book a chat with us. The link is there. And you can also check out the comment section. Everybody, thank you so much. And again, you just watched this. If you know somebody that could benefit from it, comment in this comment section with their name so that they get to see this later. All right, everybody, have a great day.